In line with what happened this past 2 years, the pandemic, it's easy to get distracted and eventually get discouraged about how things just don't go our way. I mean, one after another, there's a new strain, and somehow they will tell us one thing after another. There's another lockdown, plans don't go the way we want it to be. The pandemic has raged on for a good 2 years now. And despite the vaccine, it's not showing any signs of stopping. But in the midst of this discouraging turn of events, I have learned a very important lesson. And that is to focus on what I can control. And this is something worth imparting. When plans don't go our ways, it's easy to get caught up in things that are out of our control. And we start into a downward spiral of only focusing on the things that went wrong. And eventually obsessing over it. Why did it went wrong? What did I do? Oh, that should have happened this way or that way. And the things that further go wrong, we obsess on that as well. And it sends us into a paranoid frenzy of trying to make sense of it all. We cloud our judgment and we end up with a sort of tunnel vision. We only could see all the things that have gone awry. And we tend to forget that for the most part, what shapes our reality is how we respond to the things that happen. And if we don't focus on the things that we can control, that would bring out a lot of stress. Oftentimes, we imagine all those bad scenarios unfolding that we get caught up in emotions, trapping us into a corner, being a bystander of our own lives and wasting opportunities. I think the worst person or the worst version of ourselves we could become is the one that's too rigid, that we don't open up to the several possibilities that our life will unfold. It doesn't just go one way. There are a lot of ways it could go wrong or it could go right. The best thing we could do is to focus on what we can control. We have to keep an open mind that life is made up of good and bad days. On good days, everything unfolds as expected. And that life is made up of these cherished moments, and we get all the things, positive things from it. It's like, I think good days is when you charge up your sunshine state of mind, your positive mindset. You get all the good things from it, you get all the good feedbacks, so that you could carry that good feeling into a bad day and turn it around. That's how I think about it. You could carry the positive vibe into an otherwise challenging day. On bad days, things don't go our way. So those are the days that you need to practice to focus on the things you can control, because that's when it is required of you. Take the lessons that you could learn from those days. Chances are, more often, you practice focusing on what you can control, the more on bad days than good days. And at times, you could even turn a bad day around by focusing on what you can control. For instance, we own this 20-year-old car, and even if my brother takes care of it, like maintenance-wise, checks in the engine, checks in the car, like almost every week, but it still has a habit of breaking down in unforeseen times. So one time, we were about to leave the house when we barely hit the open road when it broke down, just a few meters away from our house. So we ended up pushing it back to our house. But instead of getting pissed, we ended up joking about it. And, it has become more comical when one of us farted while pushing the car. And we also highlighted the fact that we are very much grateful that it did not break down in the highway, as it would present a lot more challenges for us. So while our plans had changed that day, it did not, however, ruin it. So we ended up just seeking an alternate means of transportation, just modifying the plan a little. We can't control those tiny old car parts to break down, but we can control how we respond to it. And I must say, we have responded to it splendidly. Another example I could think of is during exams. You know, when you study for an exam, you don't exactly know what's going to come out, but what you can control is how you approach the days before the exam, how you make use of the days before the actual exam. You know, if you study and if you cover a lot of the topics, chances are you have a lot of things in your armamentarium to answer the questions that would come up. I mean, you don't have to have the absolute predictability that this particular question is going to come out. You just have known a lot of things that could possibly come out, and that would give you good marks. You see, the wonderful thing about this life as well is that we're given 24 hours. There's night and there's day. And I cherish night times because at night we could think of just how the day went, and we could think about how the day went and what we could do to correct our actions or accept the consequences of that day. And focusing on the aspects that we could control, we become more intentional with our actions. Therefore, we don't waste valued time, energy, and resources over something that would go either way. Admittedly, being more intentional in our actions takes practice, as even I fall victim in sudden uncalled for punches in life. So while I could complain all I want to the universe as to why this happened, it's not going to take me anywhere. So instead, what we should do is to take a more proactive approach in these things and ask ourselves, what can I make out of this situation? Or how do I make things better or make things good? A couple more proactive actions like this, we could rewire our brains into taking action and seeing opportunities instead of difficulties. More often, successful people who have serendipitously discovered things or came out with great solutions have discovered this because for the longest time, humans or mankind has been used to doing things in another way. But they have this other perspective of, I think their brain had been rewired into thinking that there are other ways you could do this, and we have gotten used to it. You know, like Jeff Bezos with Amazon, or Facebook on how we socialize with people, or Zoom, which was founded by someone because he wanted to connect with his girlfriend during the pandemic. So take heed on this. Leave what you can control. The weather, the airport schedule, the lockdowns, the strains that would come out from this COVID virus. Those are things you can't control. So instead, invest more on what we can control. We can control our attitudes, our emotions, our opinions, our dreams, our aspirations, what media or books we consume, what food we eat, how long we exercise, or do we exercise at all, what activities we choose to put our time in. So focus on what you can control. I assure you, even I am still doing that as a journey and still beginning the journey of focusing on what I can control more. But for the past 2 years that I have applied it, it has become a little less stressful, because then I don't have to be consumed with the paranoia of thinking of all the things that could go wrong. My name is Dee, and that's your dose of positivity.